Okay, so you're here with us because you love to learn, and you're the kind of person who likes to cut to the chase, right? You want the goods without having to dig through a ton of stuff.
Absolutely.
So maybe you've been totally sucked into some incredible indie games lately, and you thought, wait a minute, how do people actually make these things? Or maybe you've had that little flicker of an idea like, what if I tried to build my own world? A game, a virtual world, something interactive.
The thought a lot of people have, I think.
So today we are going deep on the whole world of being a solo indie game developer.
Yeah, like what does that actually look like in 2025?
And to do that, we've been digging into this really interesting article called The Indie Game Dev Rollercoaster. Thrills, spills, and everything in between.
Yeah, pretty accurate title, I'd say.
So consider this like your fast track pass to understanding what it's really like to be a solo creator in the gaming world right now.
That's exact.
We're going to unpack the big challenges that people face, the sometimes surprising rewards, and the major trends that are shaping how these developers work and the games that they create.
Sounds good to me.
So let's just start with the dream. Okay? Imagine you in your element, your creative space, building something amazing. You're calling all the shots, and maybe, just maybe, you strike gold.
That's the dream.
And you do it all from your own setup. That's powerful, right?
It is that vision of pure creative freedom to make what you want, how you want, and then the possibility of success.
It's really compelling.
Yeah, and it's often the initial spark, the thing that gets people started.
Yeah.
But the article is very clear. That romantic idea pretty quickly runs into reality.
Yeah.
Like the day-to-day work of actually making a game.
Right.
And what's interesting is how much more is expected of a solo dev today.
Right.
Like it goes way beyond just the technical skills.
So true.
It's this whole multifaceted thing.
Okay, so let's get into some of those realities then. Let's talk about the problems.
Yeah.
The stuff that can make this whole endeavor seriously challenging.
All right, let's do it.
So first up, we've got to talk about limited resources because, let's face it, you're not some big studio with tons of cash to throw around.
Right, and the article really highlights that this creates this constant strategic balancing act.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because when you don't have endless funding, every single choice you make has these ripple effects.
That's true. You really feel the weight of every decision. And it's not even just as simple as saying, okay, do I spend on amazing art or do I prioritize marketing?
Right, and the article actually suggested that a lot of successful solo devs are finding more consistent returns by really focusing on making that core gameplay super solid.
Oh, interesting.
And then they lean into a visual style that's distinct and memorable, but doesn't cost a fortune.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So not necessarily chasing photorealism, but finding a style that works.
Right, like you can have the most visually stunning game, but if the gameplay is boring, no one's going to stick around.
Exactly. It's about smart choices with your resources.
And that brings us to the next huge hurdle, getting your game noticed.
Oh yeah, the marketing and visibility monster.
Because you could have created the most innovative, groundbreaking game out there.
For sure.
But if it gets buried under the avalanche of new releases...
You're right, it's just totally lost.
It's like shouting into a void.
Exactly. And that's something the article really emphasizes.
Yeah.
Discoverability is a major problem. It's not enough to just make a great game.
No.
You have to become really good at building an audience, crafting a message that resonates, getting on social media, and doing press outreach.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff.
And the thing is, a lot of developers have zero experience with any of that.
It's true. It's like you have to be a brilliant scientist who suddenly has to become a master marketer overnight.
It can feel like that.
And then you throw in time management. I mean, you're wearing all the hats as a solo developer, right?
Yeah.
You're everything from CEO to janitor.
And that's where the risk of burnout comes in.
Big time.
The article really stresses how unsustainable that can be.
You're the coder, the level designer. You're testing the game. You're handling the community. You're managing the money.
It's a lot.
It's exhausting just listing it all out.
And it's not just about the sheer number of hours you're putting in.
Yeah.
It's the mental and emotional toll.
Of carrying that whole weight.
Yes, you're carrying the entire project on your shoulders.
And then just when you think you've got a handle on things, the tech landscape shifts.
Oh yeah, the technical demands are relentless.
It's like the ground is constantly shifting under your feet.
New platforms pop up, rendering techniques evolve, and now we've got things like AI integration becoming more and more common.
It's a lot to keep up with.
It is, and solo devs have to be constantly learning and adapting to make sure their games aren't left behind.
Yeah, you don't want your game to feel outdated right from the start.
Exactly.
And then there's quality assurance, which I think is so crucial but easy to overlook when you're so deep in the weeds of creating your game.
It's a huge challenge because without a dedicated QA team, the responsibility for finding those game-breaking bugs falls entirely on you.
Oh, yeah.
And the article mentioned that a lot of solo devs rely on small groups of volunteer beta testers,
Makes sense.
which is great and can be really helpful, but it's not the same as having professional testing.
True.
And the thing is, releasing a buggy game can be really damaging to your reputation.
Especially when you're starting from scratch trying to build a following.
Exactly.
So, I mean, wow, it sounds like a pretty daunting set of obstacles to overcome.
It is.
So, with all of that said, what keeps these solo devs going? What are the upsides that make them push through all of this?
That's where the article got really interesting for me.
Yeah.
The number one thing is creative freedom.
Yeah.
And that was often what got people started and what kept them going.
The fuel.
Yeah, and the article actually gave this fun example. They said, imagine you want to make a game about the life of a sentient potato.
Okay. I love it already.
Like, that's your vision. That complete autonomy to make your weirdest, most unique ideas without needing approval from anyone.
Yeah. Without a committee saying, no, 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 you can't make a game about a talking potato.
Exactly, and that's huge. That's incredibly motivating.
I mean, it really gets to the heart of indie, doesn't it? It's about that personal stamp.
Absolutely. And it's clearly more than just the freedom, too.
Yeah. There's real passion behind these projects.
Right. For a lot of solo devs, this isn't just a job. It's like this deeply personal expression.
They're pouring their heart and soul into it.
Yes. And their time and their money and their creative energy.
Everything.
And that means that every milestone, every bug, they fix every bit of positive feedback.
It's a win.
It's a huge personal victory.
It's got to feel amazing.
And then there's the dream that keeps a lot of people going, the potential for big success.
Ah, yes, the big time.
The article mentioned Powell World selling over 25 million copies.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, that's life-changing, right? And it's an incredible reminder that even a solo creator can have a massive impact.
You can reach a global audience and potentially make a serious amount of money.
And I think those stories, those indie success stories, act as these beacons of hope.
Totally. Like, if they can do it, maybe I can too.
Exactly. It shows that it's possible to break through.
But let's be real. Alongside those potential highs, there are some definite lows.
Oh, for sure.
And on the con side, the financial uncertainty alone has got to be incredibly stressful.
Yeah, the article really emphasized that most solo projects are either self-funded.
So you're using your own savings.
Yeah. Or they rely on crowdfunding, which can be super unpredictable.
Totally. I mean, you could launch a campaign and just hear crickets.
Exactly. And there's no safety net of a regular paycheck.
So you're taking a huge gamble.
You are. And the risk of pouring months or even years of your life into something that doesn't make its money back.
Oh, it's real.
It's a constant source of anxiety for a lot of solo devs.
And then you've got the isolation factor.
Yeah.
I think that's something people often underestimate.
Yeah. And the article touched on how tough that can be emotionally.
Because you're working alone day in and day out.
Right. There's no team, no office banter, no one to bounce ideas off of or vent to.
Or celebrate with.
Exactly. And that lack of social interaction of a shared experience, it can really lead to feelings of isolation.
And that can definitely take a toll on your mental well-being.
Absolutely.
And then, like we touched on earlier, there's that sheer breadth of skills you need to have or learn.
The article made that very clear.
And a lot of those skills fall outside your core area of expertise.
Right. You're not just a developer anymore. You're also a marketer, a PR person, a community manager.
You're a business owner.
You have to grapple with legal stuff.
It's constant learning on the fly.
Exactly. It can feel incredibly overwhelming.
So it really comes down to this big trade-off.
Yeah.
You get ultimate creative control and the chance to make something truly your own.
Right.
And maybe you find massive personal satisfaction and even financial success.
That's the dream.
But on the flip side, there's considerable financial risk.
For sure.
And a real chance of burning out or feeling isolated.
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin.
It's like a high-stakes gamble.
It is. And while those potential rewards are huge, the article really emphasizes that aspiring solo devs need to think seriously about the downsides.
Yeah, like go in with your eyes wide open.
Exactly.
Okay, so now I want to talk about tools.
Right.
The stuff that developers actually use to build these games.
Let's get into it.
So let's talk game engines.
Okay.
For those listening who maybe haven't really delved into game development, what exactly is a game engine?
So think of it like this. A game engine is the foundational software that gives you all the core features you need to build a game.
Okay.
The article actually compared it to the chassis of a car.
Oh. interesting.
It provides the basic structure and all the essential systems like graphics, rendering, physics simulation, audio management, and scripting capabilities.
So it's like the groundwork.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you build the game's unique features and all the content.
Okay, that makes sense. And the article highlighted several key game engines that are really big in 2025, starting with Unity. Where does Unity stand right now?
Unity's been super dominant for a while now.
Yeah, it seems really popular.
It's known for being really user-friendly,
That's good.
especially for beginners. And it has this massive asset store.
Oh, right, where you can get pre-made stuff?
Exactly. 3D models, textures, sound effects, even code scripts.
That's got to be a huge time saver.
Huge, especially for solo devs. And it's also super versatile. You can use it for both 2D and 3D development.
Cool, so you can make pretty much any type of game with it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But the article did point out that Unity's been making changes to their pricing model recently,
Oh, really?
and that's causing some concern in the indie community,
Because unpredictable costs can be a killer.
especially when you're on a tight budget.
So what about Unreal Engine? That's the one that's known for those incredibly realistic-looking games, right?
a reputation.
Like those graphics that just blow you away.
Yeah, Unreal Engine is really strong for those high-fidelity graphics, and especially for 3D and VR development.
So if you're going for visual spectacle, that's the way to go.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But the article pointed out that it comes with a steeper learning curve.
Oh, really?
Yeah, compared to some other engines. And it often needs more powerful hardware to run it smoothly.
Okay, so that could be a barrier for devs who don't have a top-of-the-line computer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's no denying how impressive the results can be.
So then there's Godot, which seems to be getting a lot of buzz lately. What's the deal with Godot?
So what people love about Godot is that it's totally free and open source.
Okay, so no licensing fees.
None, which is a huge plus for solo devs.
Right, especially when you're already strapped for cash.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's also known for being lightweight and very flexible and has a rapidly growing community, which is great for support.
I've heard good things about the Godot community.
Yeah, they're very passionate and helpful. And it really appeals to devs who want more control and transparency without being tied to a big company.
Okay, so kind of like the indie spirit applied to game engines.
Exactly.
And the article also mentioned RPG Maker, which I'm guessing is for a very specific type of game.
Its RPG Maker is designed specifically for making role-playing games with a strong emphasis on story.
So if you want to tell a rich narrative and create a world with deep lore...
That's where RPG Maker shines.
Hmm.
And it's known for being very accessible, even for people with little to no coding experience.
So you can focus more on the creative side of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's also its limitation.
Okay.
It's really good for that one genre, but not so much for other types of games.
Makes sense. So out of all these options, did the article give any kind of general recommendation for solo devs?
They seem to lean towards Godot as a really strong option,
Interesting.
mainly because it's free adaptable and has that great community support.
Yeah, those are all big pluses.
Unity is still a good contender, especially for mobile game development.
Okay.
But they did say keep an eye on their pricing changes.
So proceed with caution?
Exactly. And then RPG Maker is really only if you're specifically set on making a story-driven RPG.
Okay, so you've got your tools,
Mhm.
you've picked your game engine, now you're stepping into the arena, right?
Right.
And the article did not sugarcoat how competitive the indie game market is.
It's incredibly competitive.
It's like a battlefield out there.
Yeah, with thousands of games being released every year.
It's overwhelming just thinking about it.
It is, and it means that just having a good polished game,
It's not enough.
not even close.
Yeah,
You need something that makes your game stand out from the crowd.
you need a hook.
Exactly something that grabs people's attention.
Okay, so it could be a unique gameplay mechanic.
Yeah.
Or an art style that's really striking.
Something that sticks in their mind.
Or a story that people get totally invested in.
Without that special make, something even a really well-made game can get lost in the flood of new releases.
So innovation is key.
It's essential. And the article actually mentions some really successful indie games as examples.
Oh yeah, like...
They talk about Vampire Survivors, which has this really addictive and unconventional gameplay loop.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
And then Hollow Knight, which has a beautiful, captivating world and this really intricate exploration element.
So those games stood out because they offered something fresh and different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They weren't just copying what everyone else was doing.
And it's not just about the game itself either, right?
No, you're right.
The article talked a lot about community.
Oh, yeah. Building a community is huge nowadays.
So you're not just launching a game, you're building a whole ecosystem around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to engage with potential players, early on through platforms like Discord.
Yeah, keep him in the loop.
Exactly. Share your progress, maybe post some devlogs, do social media stuff, and involve people in beta testing.
So you're getting them excited and invested before the game even comes out.
That's the idea. It's a way to build a loyal fan base from the ground up.
And it's a way to cut through all that noise. So it seems like even though the competition is super intense, it also pushes developers to be more creative and to really connect with players.
That's a good way to put it.
It's like this weird symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, competition breeds innovation.
Okay, so now let's look ahead. What's the indie landscape looking like in 2025? What trends and opportunities should solo devs be aware of?
So the article used this really interesting term, indie renaissance.
Indie renaissance, huh?
Yeah, and what they meant by that is that indie games are gaining more and more recognition.
Okay.
Like they're being taken seriously, they're influencing the whole gaming landscape.
We're not just seen as the little brother to AAA games anymore.
Exactly, and they highlighted some examples like Hades and Pal World, which we talked about earlier, games made by small teams, or even individuals that achieve both critical acclaim.
Because they got rave reviews.
Yeah, and they were huge commercial successes.
So they sold like hotcakes?
Yeah, and often it's because they're doing something really innovative with gameplay, or they have this unique artistic vision.
So indie games are pushing boundaries.
They are. And another trend the article pointed out is the rise of short and sweet games.
Oh, yeah, I've noticed that.
These are more focused, shorter experiences.
Which makes sense. People are busy. They don't always have time to sink hundreds of hours into a massive RPG.
Exactly. And the article mentioned a couple of examples, Nodebuster and BabyDI.
Okay, I'll have to check those out.
They're good examples of games that offer a complete experience in a shorter time frame.
Which is perfect for a lot of people.
And it can be a really good approach for solo devs, too.
Less to create and potentially a faster turnaround time.
Yeah.
The article also talked about new technology and how that's opening up doors for solo devs.
That was really interesting.
Like what kind of stuff?
Well, things like AI tools for creating content procedurally.
So the AI can help you generate levels or characters or whatever.
Exactly, and that can save a ton of time and effort. And then there's the growth of cloud-based development platforms.
Which means you can access powerful tools and resources online.
Without needing a super expensive computer setup.
That's pretty amazing.
It is, and it could really level the playing field for solo devs who don't have a lot of resources.
So technology is both a challenge and an opportunity.
Totally. You have to keep up with it, but it also opens up new possibilities.
But the article is also pretty clear that funding is still a major obstacle for a lot of indie devs.
Yeah, the financial side of things is still tricky, even with all this exciting stuff happening.
Yeah, crowdfunding is still unpredictable. Grants can be tough to get, and early access programs don't always guarantee success.
Right. And all of those things require time and effort on top of actually making the game.
And they don't guarantee financial stability.
Sadly, no.
So 2025 is looking like a mixed bag for indie devs.
It's a good way to put it.
There are exciting possibilities, but also persistent challenges, especially if you're going solo.
The potential for big rewards is there, but so is the risk.
So would you say that embarking on this journey of solo indie game development in 2025 is worth the ride?
The article used that roller coaster analogy, right?
They did.
And I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, there are going to be exhilarating highs.
The creative breakthroughs, the positive feedback from players, that feeling of accomplishment when you release your game into the world.
Oh yeah, those moments must feel incredible.
But then there are going to be lows, too. The long hours, the financial worries, the constant pressure to learn and adapt.
It's not for the faint of heart.
Definitely not, but it's a unique experience.
Yeah, and it sounds like you need a certain kind of personality to really thrive in that environment.
I think so. You need passion, resilience, dedication.
And a healthy dose of realism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to go in knowing the challenges you're going to face.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive into the world of solo indie game development.
I agree.
It really makes you appreciate the hard work and dedication that goes into those games we love to play.
So much effort goes into it, and these devs wear so many different hats.
So for everyone listening, I'm curious what aspect of this whole process surprised you the most, or maybe what sounded the most challenging?
It's worth thinking about the sheer range of skills these developers need to have.
Yeah, from coding and design to marketing and community building.
And even basic business stuff.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is.
If this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to go check out some of the games we mentioned or learn more about the different game engines out there.
There's a ton of information online, and it's fascinating to see how these indie creators are navigating this ever-evolving world.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Space Fun.